you guys are having Facebook issues, you're not alone. Trust me.
Hey guys, so a lot of us are having issues with StreamYards and streaming because of it being jammed. So I was gonna go live and stream the Mercado Media, but I want you to go over to Mercado Media either on Facebook, like and follow, so that you can get firsthand updates from Andrew.
I just shared it again.
But Andrew's sharing it again. He's having problems. I'm having problems even in my town. Just because there's so much usage and so many people are going live. I just wanted to kind of go over things with you guys. I was able to go live just in my studio. So one of the things I'm going to go over is please go over to Mercado Media on Facebook, like and follow for the latest updates. Okay? Please go ahead and do that. I'm going to let you guys kind of know what's in place in Brooklyn Center, in Minneapolis. The Twins game against the White Sox was postponed. Actually, it was canceled, and so was the Timberwolves game for tonight. It was canceled. All right, so just an hour ago, one of the TV stations reported a decision on potential prosecution in fatal police shooting of 20-year-old Daunte Wright will come from Washington County Attorney's Office. Washington County is in the cities. There's different counties. There's Hennepin County, Washington County, Anoka County. So a decision on potential prosecution in the fatal police shooting of 20-year-old Daunte Wright will come from Washington County Attorney's Office. Hennepin County Attorney Mike Freeman announced that his counterpart in Washington County will be taking this case going forward in accordance with a new policy put into place last year. I would like to start by offering my sincerest sympathies and prayers to the family of Daunte Wright during the heartbreaking time, Freeman said in his statement. Freeman said that his new procedure was put in place to avoid any appearance of conflict of interest in handling such cases. According to Freeman, a charging decision will be made by Washington County Attorney's Office of the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension completes its investigation. A Brooklyn Center police officer fatally shot Wright during a traffic stop Sunday afternoon. Body camera footage has been released. Monday showed Wright exit his vehicle, and after police attempted to handcuff him, he re-entering the driver's seat. The officer who shot Wright, who has actually she has been identified. She has been identified. This statement says she has not been identified, but I do have a name. The officer was Kim Potter. So I'll just kind of show you quick so you guys can see. It says the officer has not been identified yet, but she has. It was released earlier. So Brooklyn Center Police Chief Tim Gannon, as a very senior officer, can be seen pulling out her gun and pointing it at Wright while shouting, "Taser." After shooting Wright, the officer said, "Holy shit, I just shot him." The officer has been placed on leave. Gannon said that she deserves due process, but also said, "I think we can look at the video and ascertain whether she'll be returning." Wright's death, which occurred just miles from where George Floyd died, resulted in clashes between protesters and police. Looting and unrest also spilled into Minneapolis. So I'm going to KARE 11 actually released the video, and I was going to show you because I was in the cities yesterday. I was at a Twins game. I was getting text messages from my brother-in-law and other family members who do live up in the Minneapolis area, Plymouth, Edina. They were asking me because my brother-in-law has friends that live over in the Brooklyn Center area. This is a suburb. So yeah. Was asking me how long should it take for the BBC, the Criminal Bureau of Investigations, and I said not too long. Like, we've had incidences in my county where a police officer shot a man, a young man, a very young man, and he was under investigation. It's not his first time. Back a few years ago, the young man had a knife, was sitting on the bridge, was going to attempt suicide. For some reason, he shot him, killed him. I really think that our police force needs some retraining. Hey, I'm good. How are you? All right, I'm going to go ahead and play this because I can't share the StreamYard thing right now just because everything is so blocked up. So I'm going to play this my best ability as possible.
I need to see it. I need to be transparent. And I want to be forthright. I do respect to Dante as well.
When you talk about what led to the traffic stop, Dante Wright Mulder told reporters he had an air freshener hanging on his roof.
From what I've understood from the public safety briefing, there was an expired registration on the vehicle. That means the tabs were expired. Upon arrival, when the officer made contact, I think at that time when he walked up to the car, he discovered that there was a hanging item from the rearview mirror. So there was a contact that the officer went up there initially for, obtained his ID or his name, and he walked back to his car, and at that time he ran his name, and he found out that he had a warrant. That's why they were moving from the car, and they were making a custodial arrest.
Can you tell us more about the warrants?
I have very little information on the warrant, other than it was a gross misdemeanor warrant.
Dante's brother tells us his brother didn't know he had a warrant for his arrest, and recently missed meeting with his probation officer.
That I don't know.
So there is a perception, I think in the US and around the world, that had Dante Wright been my colour, this wouldn't have happened to him. Why is it the police officers in the United States keep killing young black men and young black women far higher rate than they do white?
I don't have an answer to that question.
This black man is real here in the state of Minnesota. I can answer that question.
Was there a gun found in the car?
There's no gun that I was made aware of. I did not search the car, but I've not been made aware of a gun in the vehicle.
The officer, is she under any type of
There has been
evaluation?
There has been a fair amount of social chatter in media, which I don't normally comment on, but there was some comments in social media that she had committed suicide. That is not true. That is not true. To the best of my knowledge, she's being taken care of right now.
What can you tell us about this officer? How long she's been with the department?
At this point in time, I don't have that. I will not release that information. That should be released very shortly, though. I believe the BCA has a system in place where they'll be releasing the names of all parties involved, and also all their training records and all that information as far as tenure and seniority. That'll be released shortly.
Can you be honest again? Do you plan to step down if people call for your resignation after the actions outside of this police department last night?
At this point, I do not.
Chief, what was happening then? What do we see in the video prior to the shot? You described the taser and what was happening.
I'm not in the mind of the officer. I can only see what you're all seeing. I can couple that with some of the training much of the training that I've received, and that's why I'm believing it to be an accidental discharge.
But prior to that, there was some sort of activity going on. When they were trying to take him into custody.
It appeared to me from the video that the individual was trying to get back into his car to leave.
Chief, how often do officers go through firearm training to try and maybe prevent something like that happening? Or you don't think that kind of mistake is an annual training, or is it, how does that work?
We have numerous trainings throughout the year. We don't try to lump it all in one group. So there's numerous trainings where we do tactical training, we do firearms training, we do taser deployments. We have pretty thorough taser requalifications. on a yearly basis, but then we also do a number of scenarios and role-playing exercises as well. I can take one more question, please.
In the midst of a pandemic, why was it a priority to pull someone over for expired tax?
And I don't know if that was a priority, but it was a violation that the officer observed and initiated a traffic stop.
Chief, are you aware that there's a significant delay? Are you aware that there's a significant delay in getting tabs and things of this nature from the DMV? So even people who have purchased tabs are unable to get them because there's a 2 to 3 month backlog. Are you aware of that? And is your staff also aware of that? And have you made any type of recommendations to your staff to be mindful that we're in the middle of a pandemic and don't pull people over for tabs, particularly because there is a significant delay in getting those tabs from the Department of Motor Vehicles? Are you aware of that?
I am aware of that.
Police.
I am aware of that.
Is your staff aware of that?
Yes, they are.
Chief.
That was the last question. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask you, in that video, the female officer clearly made a fatal mistake. She did the wrong thing. We understand she's going to be receiving some type of counseling, but should she lose her job since it's abundantly clear that she killed someone?
Let me be very clear. My position is that we cannot afford to make mistakes that lead to the loss of life of other people in our profession. And so I do fully support releasing the officer of her duties.
You support her expired?
I do.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, you just said yourself, the whole world is watching the Twin Cities right now. Why weren't police forces looking out just looking out about what they were doing? Why weren't they taking great precautions when they got involved in things like this? Do you have any answer for that?
I don't have an answer. I have not spoken with the officers involved myself. At this point, the BCA is the one that's in contact with those officers, and in fact is the only one that's allowed to be in contact with those officers.
Mr. Mayor, clearly, because you've answered the question directly, you've given some thought to this idea of releasing this officer. With that said, what is the process? Can she be released immediately? Does she have to go through some type of appeals process? How does that work?
Well, under our form of government, the city manager who's here, you can come up, Kurt. He ultimately actually has control over the police department, not the mayor, and over the chief. So you can comment on that. The city council also, has ultimate authority over what happens in the city collectively. So the city council can take action in this regard as well. Go ahead, Mr. Bagney.
Thank you, Mr.
Say and spell your first and last name.
Yeah, my name is Kurt Bagney, Boganey. And in response to the question about termination, all employees working for the city of Brooklyn Center are entitled to due process with respect to discipline. This employee will receive due process, and that's really all that I can say today. Do you support the termination of an officer like this who has made the type of mistake that has cost a resident of yours life? Do you support the termination of this type of officer? What message are we sending here in Brooklyn Center to the rest of the world about the valuation of Black life? Do you support the termination of this type of an officer? I understand and appreciate the comment that you made and why you said it. But if I were to answer that question, I'd be contradicting what I said a moment ago, which is to say that all employees are entitled to due process, and after that due process, discipline will be determined. If I were to say anything else, I would actually be contradicting the idea of due process. One final question. Mm-hmm. What's your expectation for how a significantly white police force here in Brooklyn Center treats the Black and brown members of this community? What expectation have you communicated down to the chief and to the officers under him for how they are to interface with the vast majority, because the vast majority of this population is Black and brown? How have you communicated to them to interface and interact with people who look like me?
Absolutely, I've communicated that to the chief, and I do believe that the chief concurs with the notion that every resident of Brooklyn Center must be treated fairly, must be treated equitably. The city council has been very clear in its expectations about fairness and equity. We are implementing this year an Office of Anti-Racism Principles and Practices. We are hiring an equity officer in the next several weeks. The city council has provided specific direction about accountability for the police department and transparency for the police department. We've been providing reports to the city.
Talk to us about the
City council.
accountability.
Yes, we're providing reports to the city council about officer discipline, about information on stops of black and brown people or people of color in the city of Brooklyn Center. We're developing some task forces to assess if any of our policies or if any of our practices lead to disproportionate inequitable results. And our objective for doing that analysis is to eliminate any inequity that occurs as a result of our practices and our policies. And that has been communicated to the chief and to the police officers of the city of Brooklyn Center.
Is there clearly racial profiling that happened in this situation? We are standing in solidarity and calling for the firing of this officer. We have talked about her having due process, although Dante Wright did not get due process in that situation. She needs to be fired immediately to send a message that this type of behavior will not be condoned within the city of Brooklyn Center.
Thank you. I appreciate those comments.
Chief,
Should an officer who can't tell the difference between a taser and a hand, should he go out in a vehicle with those items in their car?
It really wouldn't be appropriate for me to respond to that.
Why would it not be appropriate, sir?
I can't make that judgment.
So as a supervisor of the police force, were you part of the decision last night to use tear gas on our youth who were protesting yesterday? And rubber bullets?
I was not.
Mr. City Manager, Mr. Mayor, when I asked that question about the firing of the police officer, the police chief left. Yeah. What is that an indication of? Is he dealing with something perhaps more important, or is that some type of silent protest? Because he left immediately.
I can't speculate.
Mr. Mayor, you have a comment?
I do not know why the excuse me.
Does that bother you without knowing why that he just walked out?
I do not know why the chief left. I can only speculate as to why he left at the time that he did.
Does it bother you?
What would your speculation be?
I don't have any speculation. I mean, it's possible that the chief takes a position perhaps similar to the city manager that there needs to be some kind of a process.
Due process.
I don't know. I mean, I would only.
What was the conversation between you and the chief? What was that conversation between you and the chief when you shared with the chief that you'd like to see this officer terminated? He didn't tell us anything about the officer, how long she's been on the force, her name, where she trained. These are questions the public deserves to know.
Certainly. Those conversations, I'm not, are privileged conversations, so I can't reveal that right now, but we should be able to provide the details around the officer and her trainings and those types of details. If you'll just give me a second, I'm just going to check to see if is the chief engaged currently at the moment in addressing some public safety concerns or some other matter. Is there any reason why we can't have him answer some more questions around folks are asking about the officer's training and whatnot?
How long she's been on the force?
Okay, so we're
the city, and the chief can just walk out in the midst of a crisis.
So
he needs to be fired too.
Yeah.
Just to be clear, we are checking right now with the chief to see if he will come back and stand for more questions.
What's the protocol for when there is protesters and in the city Brooklyn Center and also outside of the police, the police office? And what is the normal protocol? What is
Hold on, guys. I'm gonna see if I can.
For who decides and how does that decision happen? And then where those protocols and that process follow last night?
That's
All
better.
right. So I will have the city manager and the chief speak on that, but I'll speak first. My role becomes active the moment that that I declare a state of emergency, and if the city council acts to give the mayor authority over the police, or under the circumstances that there's a declaration of martial law. And so my role really is one of influence in those situations. I cannot give commands to the department. I cannot instruct the police chief to take certain actions or not to take certain actions. The person who can do that is the city manager. And so in terms of what the protocols are and for handling protests, I imagine the chief will be coming back to join us and speak on that shortly. But Mr. Bogany, if you have any comments on that.
And could you release the name of the officer who's involved in the shooting?
It's public data.
It's my understanding that name will be released very shortly, but it's my understanding that at this point the BCA, who's doing the investigation, is not.
The BCA is not required to conduct the investigation. You all specifically chose them, which means you have ultimate authority over what happens and what information is released. So just as the chief released that body camera footage, we're expecting the name of the officer to be released because that is public data. The BCA has no control over that whatsoever.
Well, let me say this, and I will let the chief address that particular question as well. But I will tell you this. We have every intent to release that information as quickly as possible, and I just leave it at that. We don't have, there's no reason or desire to withhold that information any longer than it's absolutely necessary.
So can you instruct the chief to release her name?
I won't do that at this moment, at this place.
Why?
It would be inappropriate.
It's not inappropriate. What was inappropriate was killing Dante Wright under those circumstances. So you are working harder to protect a killer cop than a victim of police murder.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm back. I'm sorry. I left. I'm used to doing the handout with the BCA, and I apologize for that. Normally, the BCA steps in and they do a lot of the talk about the investigations. That's what I'm used to. So I apologize for that, but I'm back here now. I can answer some more questions, but please realize, in an officer-involved shooting, what happens is I have no contact with that investigation because I don't want to taint that investigation. People can say they scoff at that. I looked at this video, which is unprecedented. I don't know if any chiefs have done that very often or has looked at that video in advance of that. So sometimes you can't unwatch a video. So hold on. Let me finish, please. So what I'm saying is I have limited information. I'm not trying to be disingenuous, but I'm trying to stay away from the investigation. I wish the BCA was here, but again, they probably tell you the same thing, that there's not much they can do because it's an early investigation. Now, please, one question at a time. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
May I ask you directly, as I asked the mayor, do you believe the officer who fired this fatal shot? And I understand there's due process, we get that. But ultimately, she shot and killed a 20-year-old man. The mayor has indicated she should be terminated. What's your position on that?
My position is that officer afforded due process just like anybody else does. She has the right to be heard. She has the right to give her statement. She has the right to tell what she felt, what she thought. Not what I thought, not what I saw, but what she thought and and that may have an impact. She's on administrative time out. She will not be returning to duty until this investigation runs its course. And she, for all intents and purposes, I think we can look at the video and ascertain whether or not she'll be returning.
So this is not the first time this has happened.
So one question at a time, please. It was over here?
Yes.
Yes,
The fact that this is not the first time that this has happened in the city of Brooklyn Center. 2 years ago, we had another officer-involved shooting where a young man lost his life. You understand that the public do not trust you in your department right now. And what we are asking for, you are not giving to us. You should already have a process by now on how to deal with the situation. And we really demand to know the information of the officer involved in the shooting.
Okay. The first question is we do have a process in place, and that's leaning on the BCA to do their investigation. Every shooting that I've seen, every shooting that I've witnessed has been different. Every circumstance is different around every shooting. It's tragic every time. The loss of life is obviously tragic, but there are different circumstances around every situation. In this particular situation, it was very important for me to get that video out as quickly as possible, and that's what I did.
Chief, absolutely unprecedented. I lived in Minnesota 7 years, worked here. Can you just tell us a little bit about how long the officer was on the force here at Brooklyn Center? Was she around when Barway was pulled from the body of water 6 years ago today?
The information on the officer is she's a very senior officer. That's the extent that I can do. A very senior officer, and like I do believe that the BCA will be releasing all the information, training records, everything that they have. They'll be releasing that. That's public data. That'll be coming out shortly.
And Chief, what is the normal protocol and process for response to protesters? And was that protocol and process followed last night?
There was strict adherence to the policy of working with a protest when it turns into a riot. Last night, there were numerous warnings to disperse because it was an unlawful assembly. It was declared at least 5 times while I was there. Plenty of time was given to disperse, and it was not.
Was it your decision to release tear gas and to shoot fire bullets, rubber bullets at the young protesters?
Sure. I'm the police chief in the city. Police action is made by me. The decision is made by me. Does that answer your question?
So I have a question. Upon myself and other organizers and activists coming up to the police station, we were really shocked to see utter darkness, to see all of the lights, both interior and exterior, extending all the way out, making the street virtually dark. We were really shocked and surprised to see that. From my experience, and I would imagine most other people's experiences, law enforcement would want to have as much light as possible to be able to see whatever is going on. I was told that the moment the lights all went down, that created a certain level of mood, a certain agitation within the crowd. What was your thinking? Because I was told that you made the ultimate call to turn all the lights off, even the street lights that was out in front of the building, to turn all of the lights off. What was your thinking about turning off the lights in the midst of people coming and
Sure.
attempting to redress
Sure.
At the police station? What was your decision behind turning off all the lights?
I don't know about the lights on the street, but I know the building lights were turned off because they created a backlighting for the officers that were on the front lines. They became targets for concrete blocks, frozen cans that I personally saw and ducked. So that's what I turned those lights off. So that
turning off the lights made them less of targets? Or?
Yes, they weren't backlit. So then the people that were in front, they couldn't see it. So if we have lights in front of us, that's what the police department would like to have. We'd like to be looking out forward, not behind us, because then you get backlit.
So the lights that I'm talking about were all around. So the lights were all around the front part of the building. The police were well behind that, but it just created an entire darkness around. It seemed very unusual for a station to have all the lights off, including the lights all in the street, to create utter darkness and a lot of confusion and a real ominous kind of mood. And I would say that it's very unusual. I've been to a lot of police stations. I've been to a lot of protests. I've been to a lot of these type of events. I have never seen the police department utterly shut down all of the lights. What was your thinking behind not the backlit lights, but all of the lights, even in the front part of the police station in general, to create utter darkness?
Sir,
And then also, one final question. What was your decision to issue a dispersal order while they were peacefully protesting in front of the police station? What led to you to issue a dispersal order, and then on the back end of that 10-minute dispersal order, then to issue out CO2 canisters and gas for the crowd?
So,
can you tell us?
yeah, just so everybody's clear, I was front and center at the protest, at the riot. We did not.
It was a protest. Don't do that.
There was no riot.
There was. So the officers that were putting themselves in harm's way were being pelted with frozen cans of pop. They were being pelted with concrete blocks. And yes, we had our helmets on and we had other protection gear, but an officer was injured, hit in the head with a brick. That was a Hennepin County deputy. He was transported to the hospital. So we had to make decisions. We had to disperse the crowd because we can't allow our officers to be harmed. And I've already answered the question, I believe, about your lighting. I know that's a big deal with you, and I understand that, but I thought I've explained that myself. So I told you it's my decision, and that's why I made that decision. Is there another question? Yes, ma'am.
I mean, the room's tense. I can feel it.
Yes, ma'am.
What is on your heart?
He's defensive.
Let him answer, guys.
Sure.
But
What?
speak to us for real. Like, keep it 100.
This is what I'm here for. Okay. I'm the leader of this department. They expect me to lead, to create a safe city. That's what I'm trying to
I
do.
hope he's not.
So that's it.
I hope he's not trying to.
Okay. And yeah, I'm emotional.
Guys, he's being honest.
I'm just trying to be honest. So
When I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
When you asked the protesters to take a step back across the street, what was the reasoning for, after they went across the street, you shot tear gas grenades and flashbangs where the people were across the street where you had originally told them to be?
Sure. The only time that we return, in every situation that we had, we returned fire. So when we got pelted with bricks or frozen cans, which you've collected, we photographed the evidence. We have the evidence. We can show that to you in the future. But once we got pelted, then we responded in kind. And there was a distance there was a distance and everything that.
Who had nothing to do with drones, anything. That's
Sure.
the danger of turning off the lights
Sure.
and firing tear gas and firing rubber bullets and firing flashbang grenades at people who were just exercising their First Amendment rights.
Sure.
To freedom of speech. That's the problem, Sheila.
I understand that,
Did you do things differently
Would I do things differently last night?
than last night?
Absolutely not.
That's happened.
Absolutely not. We had a situation where we were bringing in an arrest team, and we were worried. How many people are we going to arrest? When we started to move the people, finally, hours into the situation, you know how many people we arrested that stayed? 2 people. If we hadn't done that, if we hadn't moved people on, I don't know what would have happened, and I don't know where they would have reformed. But the people that left were allowed to leave. We didn't trap them. We didn't make mass arrests. We arrested 2 people.
So what are the plans for tonight?
Tonight? Tonight we're gonna. If it's a peaceful protest, if it's a First Amendment protest, go to it.
I guess what's your definition of a peaceful protest? Because we don't understand.
Yeah, not being pelted with bricks, blocks, and being targeted.
What we saw yesterday were young people up with their hands up.
Yeah.
And they were being tear gassed. And
Yeah.
you were talking about your officers been hurt. We can't count how many people got hurt yesterday too.
Okay.
So that's what I want to ask you. Are you planning on doing things differently tonight?
We are going to have our officers lined up to protect this building, to protect the city as best we can. That's what we're going to do today. And that's what we do every day.
I got one more question. When the officers were firing tear gas and flashbangs, there was an apartment complex with families behind it. And that's where a lot of the flashbangs were going. Had a flashbang, went into one of those windows and started that building on fire. It put a lot of other people at risk.
Okay.
Why?
I didn't see any flashbang that was very close to those apartments. 1400, 67th, I was there. I didn't see anybody. 40, 67, 40.
Right overhead, over the building.
Okay.
And we saw that last night.
And I didn't see that myself.
So we saw it.
Good. I'm not discounting you.
Why was
Are there going to be more questions?
Why was Dante Wright's body left in the streets for hours yesterday?
The due respect for Dante was given at my order to keep the respect of his body, whether that be covered it or fenced it around. But we needed to have it maintained because we needed the investigation to be complete and thorough. The documentation is not done by us; it's done by the BCA crime team, which is the entity that investigates these situations. They came out as quickly as they could. They processed the scene as quickly as they could. We did not want to maintain, as people have mentioned. Once the officers left, the protest and the disturbance went away. We were trying to get our officers out there as soon as possible.
Do you understand how dehumanizing that was to have a body lay in the street for 5 hours?
That was a priority of my assignment, to get him removed from that as soon as possible without disturbing the crime scene, so that we wouldn't be accused of tampering with the evidence.
All right, now let me ask Chief, you can stay here for a second. Are there any other questions here from any of the media folks? No?
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay. Is
Yeah,
it
I have a question.
final question?
Final question. So, please, Chief, we hear that you have committed to protecting this building, protecting the city tonight as their protest. Will you commit to protecting protesters and the people of the city?
I am committed to protecting the peaceful protesters in the city every day.
Not yesterday. Not yesterday.
Peaceful protesters.
I was a peaceful protester.
Yeah.
And they were targeting me.
Okay. All right. So thank you, everybody. Just to reiterate, my commitment, our commitment as a city, and in many ways we need to recommit to that. That is to making sure that we're protecting peaceful protesters. We're protecting the rights of people to gather and grieve, and give their grievances to the government. And so we're going to work to continue to protect those rights, protect peaceful protesters, and to make sure that we're also securing the safety of our community. Thank you.
Understand that when peaceful protesters gather in the event of violence, that things are going to escalate. And at that point, you can't blame them for calling rioters.
Yeah.
I understand that.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
So we have a community downstairs, outside the building. Outside the building.
So you all can reconfigure yourselves. We're about to go.
So I do have, it has been released that the officer that was involved in the shooting was a 26-year police officer. Her name is Kim Potter. And it has been released through media, so I'm not getting in any trouble. I was going to see. Hold on, guys. So just to let you guys know that they are, right now, if you go to Marcona Media, you will see that they are still protesting. And we have been placed in the state of an emergency in Brooklyn Center. Governor Walz has announced a curfew, 7 p.m. to 5 a.m.
I caution everybody as you watch this that this will be graphic and unedited. Can I have that video start, please?
Just a moment here. Okay.
Good. It should be on both screens.
Okay, I want to replay that. I want you to pay attention to the police officer that is right next to her. You cannot miss this because what I want you to look at, I want you to pay attention to is the color of the taser on this man's belt. Now, what I was told is your gun is always on your dominant side and that taser is on your non-dominant side. So if you are right-handed, your gun is going to be in your right holster. If you are left-handed, your gun's going to be in your left holster, which means you're right-handed, that taser is going to be where? On your left side. So I'm going to replay this. I want you guys to pay attention to the officer that does not have the gun drawn that is trying to get Dante to come back out of the vehicle. It's a very important key.
I caution everybody as you watch this that this will be graphic and unedited. Can I have that video start, please?
Turn the lights off. Just a moment here. Okay.
Good. It should be on both screens.
So clearly that officer has his gun on his... See the taser? The taser is yellow. There's a difference in color between...
Okay, that's awesome. Okay.
Between
That'll
it.
work. You run your body cam? I am now because I don't know how legit you are.
The taser's yellow. Now, I'm confused. Okay, you know who he is, number one. You have his address, number two. You could have let this man go and then gone back and arrested him with additional charges for fleeing officers and resisting arrest. Instead, we have a state of emergency. We have a 20-year-old man who's not going to see his son's second birthday. We have a mom that is mourning the loss of her son, a brother that's mourning the loss of her son, a girlfriend that was in the car and watched her boyfriend be murdered. We have a police officer who has this much experience, and one quick move. Was this necessary? Over some expired tabs, over a warrant, over a goddamn air freshener hanging in your window. Everybody knows you live in the state of Minnesota. You've been born here. You're raised here. Do not put an air freshener in your mirror. That gives the police officer every right to pull you over. Nothing hanging from that rear view mirror. Do not do it. There's something else I want to play for you. like I said, a lot of us are having issues with pulling up stuff tonight because yeah, like they've blocked everybody's internet. Like I'm trying to look something up and I had shared it earlier. What's the matter, AJ? Do I not have internet? Hold on, let me restart my phone. So I'm going to tell you a little story. True facts. It's not even a story. So we have a 2004 Yukon Denali. My son, who is on felony probation, has been driving this Denali. Okay. Guess what we figured out last week? The tabs were due in January. My son was driving this thing back and forth. The tabs were due in January. I think there's an air freshener hanging from the mirror. This could have been my son. This could have been anybody's child. That's the point. So I have to go get tabs for the Yukon. I'll show you. If you don't believe me, I'll take pictures of the Yukon. But yeah, the tabs were expired in January. And my husband said to my son, "Oh, they're due in June." And my son said, "No, Dad, they were due in January." So let me try this again. Because our internet, I mean, we couldn't use StreamYards. We're having a heck of a time. So instead of me taking up StreamYards from somebody, I decided to go this route on Go Live so that people, boots on the ground, can actually get this whole thing because it needs to be done. Wow. Sorry, guys. Let me check my settings. Like, they're really jamming the circuits right now. Like, we're going to turn that off. I'm going to turn my Wi-Fi off up here and see if I can get something. It might run a little slower. Nope. Lord. I might have to save that for another live. Possibly. Well, let's go back into settings. Turn Wi-Fi back on. Clear that. So, hello, fails. Let's check the dinosaur that's all dusty over here. Hold on, guys. Come on. Come on. You don't need my password for Microsoft. Get out of here. Who are you kidding? Well, we'll go to the dinosaur. If all else fails, I go to the dinosaur. So I know I'm logged in because it doesn't need my password. All right, so we're going to do this. Hold on all. If all else fails, we go dinosaur. So this is my T-Rex. You'll have to excuse it. It's kind of dusty. So we're going to play this. We're going to play this.
I just want to talk a little bit about who Dante was. He was a son. He was a brother. He was an uncle. He was a father. He was a grandson. He was so much more. And he did not deserve this at all. My heart is literally broken into 1,000 pieces. And I don't know what to do or what to say. But I just need everybody to know that he is much more than this. And I've been so much already, and it's only been a day, and I can't imagine what's going to happen tomorrow, the next day, and so forth. And I'm just trying to take day by day. But I need everybody to know he had a smile that was angelic. He lit up the room. He was funny. He played. He was an amazing son, and he's going to truly be missed by everybody. He had a 2-year-old son. He had sisters and brothers.
Take the mask off.
Oh yeah, there's metal. And I just need everyone to know that he was my life. He was my son, and I can never get that back because of a mistake, because of an accident.
That was Katie Wright. That is Dante's mom. Hold on, y'all. I want you guys to pay attention at something too. Oh no.
3rd and Lee in Brooklyn Center. The mother of 20-year-old Dante Wright identified her son as the man killed by police earlier today.
His son, yeah, they pulled him over because he had air fresheners hanging from his ear. They had no insurance. Police officer comes back to the window, put him on the phone, and I will give him the insurance.
Brooklyn Center Police released an update saying officers pulled over a driver for a traffic violation on Orchard Avenue shortly before 2 p.m. Sunday. It's unclear why officers pulled over the driver, but officers say the driver identified by his mother as Wright had an outstanding warrant.
Then I heard the police officer come to the window and say, put the phone down and get out of the car. And Dante said, why? And he said, well, explain to you when you get out of the car.
Brooklyn Center Police say as officers attempted to take the driver into custody, he got back into his car.
I heard the police officer say, Dante, don't run.
That's when police say an officer then discharged his weapon, striking the driver.
Like a minute later, I called and his girlfriend answered, which was the passenger in the car, and said that he'd been shot.
Okay. Dante Wright's mom is white.
Our retirement plan with Boya?
Dante Wright's dad is black.
They have customized solutions to help our family's
So-
special needs, giving us confidence in our.
Somebody had, oh shoot, what did they do here? Somebody had messaged me today saying something, and I was like, but you don't understand. Because in Minnesota, we don't look at color. There's a lot of mixed families. Regardless of skin color, regardless of what's going on in this world, we all need to make sure that people people are being held accountable for their mistakes, their consequences, and all of their actions, plain and simple. My heart goes out to Dante's family, especially his mom, because this is something that no family should ever have to endure, period. Ever, period. Okay. One of the things that I wanted to address with Dante is his body laid in the road for 5 hours until the Criminal Bureau of Investigations arrived, till the BBC was done. So that's also heart-wrenching. And then, like Dante's mother said, because of a mistake, she lost her son. Come on, y'all. Better training. Especially when it's your gun and a taser. I've cleaned up a mess of a taser. My mother-in-law had got up and thought my brother-in-law was in the living room. It was 8 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday. And here it was some man that thought he was at the right house. Because in our town, there's a lot of bars. And in between her house and the next bar, this guy crawled in her house, passed out on her couch. She thought it was my brother-in-law. It wasn't my brother-in-law. So she went and woke up my brother-in-law. My brother-in-law said, call the police. The police didn't draw their guns. They tased this man. And let me tell you, the little pieces from that taser, you know the difference between a taser and a gun. I guarantee it. There's a weight difference. There's a sound difference. So, am I frustrated? Yes. Because we're not even a year out and George Floyd lost his life because another police officer murdered him. And now we have Dante Wright, Katie Wright, his sisters, his brothers, his son that will be 2 in July, lost his daddy. They'll never get that back. That little boy is going to grow up. And the only thing that people can give that little boy is memories. And that's not fair to Dante. That's not fair to Dante's son. That is not fair to Katie. That is not fair to his sisters, his family, his friends. So right now we are on pretty much Tim Walz's orders. We're on Minnesota has well, actually the cities. So Brooklyn Center has a curfew, 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. So what does that mean for people that are going to work third shift that need to stop at a gas station? What are we going to have driving orders and driving papers? Like, everybody knows because I posted it on my YouTube channel. I was at a Twins game on Sunday when all this went down. Like, the game started at 1 o'clock. And this happened at 1:45 p.m. So 45 minutes into this game. And I was getting text messages and, are you going to need a place to stay? Are you and, your grandson okay? Your son-in-law okay? We were fine. As we left Minneapolis, we drove past Brooklyn Center. We couldn't see anything. There was some roads already blocked off of the interstate. I'm not sure why that was or if that was another incident, but I was told to go home and be safe. I really wanted to show this family support. not necessarily be boots on the ground to get the media coverage, but just to, this mom should have gotten, that's another thing that really bothered me with the whole situation. This mom standing on the street with her family grieving, and her son's laying there dead, and there was no grievance counselors there. There was nothing to help them set into place, to give them a tent or a shelter to take refuge. Okay. It doesn't take but a few minutes to be kind, to send that support system out. Where is their grievance support system for this family? They're talking about grievance support for this cop. Where is the support for this family? Did y'all forget about them? Obviously. So that's where my shit with the cops gets messed up. And I guess maybe once a month they need to be tested. Do you know what a gun is? Maybe taking the regular bullets away. They want to shoot rubber bullets into a crowd of minors and tear gas people. How about you give them some rubber bullets for their guns? For their regular guns that they're shooting people and killing people with. That's my rant. Like, seriously. You know, and I understand that they didn't want to contaminate the scene and they wanted to be as professional as possible. I get that, because I have family members that are police officers. I have family members that are colored. My family's a rainbow. Okay, I get it. But what I don't understand was, where was Dante's family grievance support? Where was that support for Dante's family? They count too. They matter. So I'm already frustrated with this, probably a little worse than I was with the George Floyd situation. Just because, you know, they knew who this kid was. So if he ran from the cops, just give him another charge, let him go. Why'd you shoot? Oh shit, I shot him. That wasn't no taser, honey. You can't tell the difference between your gun and your taser? No. There's good cops and there's bad cops. Don't get me wrong. There's corrupt cops. And there's cops that really do care about their community, about their people. But I'm going to hop off here. I am sorry about last night's live. I put Marcota Media on and I completely passed out. I woke up this morning and my computer was still going. It still said I was live. But everything's kind of blocked up with certain connections and phone connections. And I'm not sure how they do it. I've even told that the police and the FBI can actually shut down the internet. I've never heard of that. Another media source was telling me about that from, I think it was a different channel. Anyway, they were telling me that, yeah, they can actually go in. I mean, they shut all the lights off and shut all the lights off. So yeah, I'm going to get off here. I'm going to go to bed. I'm going to shut my Facebook down on this dinosaur. Trusty old dinosaur. I'm not sure how they shut off internet or turn down internet, or like, I guess they could kill their Wi-Fi. So that's probably what he was talking about. I was kind of trying to listen and pay attention, but I had other things racing through my mind on this situation. I know what's funny is I was actually going to purchase tickets for the White Sox game tonight, and I'm glad I didn't. So I'm going to hop off here. Everybody, please keep Dante Wright's family, Katie Wright, his mom, lift them up in your prayers, and pray for the best outcome. You have a good night.